You think the streets of America are safe? Think again. Modern cartels are no longer hidden in distant countries. They've built empires right here, in US cities. From Los Angeles to Miami, Chicago to Houston, these gangs control neighborhoods, traffic illegal drugs, and launder millions without leaving a trace. Tonight, we dive into the hidden world of America's most dangerous cartels, their operations, their power, and the people living in the shadows of their empire. You walk down these streets every day and think life is normal. But beneath the glow of the city lights, a shadow empire thrives built by men and women who never appear on the news until it's too late. These are the modern cartels of America. Once, the word cartel conjured images of Colombian cocaine lords or Mexican kingpins crossing borders. Today, cartels have evolved. They are no longer limited to foreign territories. They operate inside America's own cities, blending traditional gang tactics with modern technology, encrypted communications, and financial sophistication that rivals legitimate corporations. Modern US cartels are hybrids, part street gang, part multinational criminal enterprise. They control neighborhoods, smuggle drugs, and launder millions of dollars, often without drawing attention from law enforcement. They have become invisible powerhouses, thriving in plain sight. In cities like Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, and Houston, these organizations are no longer just a threat. They are a reality. From local corners to high-rise penthouses, their influence stretches far beyond what most people can imagine. To understand today's cartels, one must look back at America's history of organized crime. During Prohibition, bootleggers like Al Capone controlled Chicago's liquor trade through corruption and violence. By the 1970s and 1980s, Italian-American mafia families had dominated gambling, smuggling, and other illicit enterprises, establishing the blueprint for organized crime in the US. As the 1980s and 1990s unfolded, street gangs fueled by crack cocaine transformed inner-city neighborhoods into battlegrounds, with violence and control marking every corner. Yet, by the 2000s, a new wave emerged, sophisticated, ruthless, and modern. Mexican and Colombian cartels expanded into American cities, merging with local street gangs to create operations that were more organized and profitable than ever. Unlike their predecessors, these modern cartels do not rely solely on brute force. They rely on strategy, manipulation, and technology. Each move is calculated, each operation compartmentalized to avoid detection. A modern cartel is structured like a corporation. At the top sit the kingpins, often invisible, rarely seen in public, yet pulling the strings of vast criminal networks. Beneath them are the lieutenants, regional managers responsible for territories, distribution, and discipline. Street-level operatives handle daily transactions, enforce rules, and ensure the flow of drugs and money. Meanwhile, financial cells, often experts in money laundering and crypto operations, move millions without ever appearing on police radars. Unlike traditional gangs, modern cartels are multi-layered, and their compartmentalized approach means that one misstep by a single member rarely exposes the entire organization. This intricate system has made them nearly untouchable, and the risk involved only adds to their allure. Millions are drawn to the power and wealth of this underground world, despite the deadly consequences. The rise of cartels in America is most visible in major cities. Los Angeles, for instance, has become a hub for Mexican cartel operations merged with local gangs. In LA's sprawling neighborhoods, cartel influence is seen in drug distribution networks, street enforcement, and the covert movement of cash and narcotics. Miami, historically a gateway for cocaine and other drugs from Latin America, has evolved into a sophisticated transit and money laundering hub, blending the glamour of the city with the darkness of crime. Chicago's streets are another battleground where traditional street gangs have formed alliances with drug cartels, creating a violent hybrid that controls neighborhoods and intimidates communities. Houston and New York also serve as key points for the import, distribution, and financial operations of these organizations, making the threat nationwide rather than localized. Modern cartels do not operate as visibly as their historical counterparts. Their weapon is invisibility moving in the shadows, hidden behind legal fronts, encrypted devices, and complex financial networks. Social media and technology play a role in recruitment, coordination, and intimidation, with encrypted messaging apps allowing operatives to communicate safely while law enforcement struggles to keep up. Money laundering has evolved beyond cash drops. Shell companies, real estate investments, and cryptocurrency provide ways to hide billions. The scale and sophistication of these operations are staggering, and the modern cartel is as much a financial empire as it is a street-level threat. Violence is still very much a part of cartel life, but it has become more targeted. Unlike the indiscriminate street warfare of old, modern cartel violence is calculated aimed at rivals, traitors, or those who fail to follow orders. Assassinations, drive-by shootings, and intimidation tactics are used to maintain control without attracting unnecessary law enforcement attention. Even within this violent world, discipline and hierarchy are paramount. Betrayal is not tolerated, and the consequences are swift and brutal. The human impact of these organizations cannot be overstated. Neighborhoods under cartel influence experience fear, instability, and disruption. Young people are drawn in by promises of money and power, often unaware of the lethal consequences that accompany them. Families live in constant anxiety, caught between loyalty to their children and the dangers of the streets. Communities see businesses extorted, streets patrolled by armed men, and the constant shadow of violence looming overhead. While law enforcement struggles to intervene effectively, the cartels adapt, evolve, and grow stronger. Law enforcement agencies in the US have developed specialized units to combat these threats, including the FBI, DEA, and local police task forces. Despite their efforts, the cartel's combination of secrecy, technology, and brutality makes them extremely difficult to dismantle. Wiretaps, undercover operations, and raids have led to arrests and seizures, but these successes are often temporary. The hierarchy simply reorganizes, new leaders emerge, and operations resume. The cartels have learned to exploit the gaps in the legal system, using corruption, intimidation, and strategic planning to maintain their influence. Modern cartels are also highly adaptable. They respond to changes in law enforcement tactics, shifts in drug demand, and the availability of technology. For instance, cryptocurrency has allowed for safer, more anonymous financial transactions. Drones, encrypted messaging apps, and surveillance technology help them coordinate operations with a level of precision unimaginable decades ago. The streets of America have become a chessboard, where every move is calculated, and every misstep can mean death or capture. Despite their sophistication, modern cartels are not invincible. Rivalries between groups often erupt into violence. Law enforcement occasionally penetrates their networks, and internal betrayals destabilize operations. Yet, the resilience and adaptability of these organizations have allowed them to survive, thrive, and expand in ways that previous generations of gangs and criminal empires could only dream of. The threat they pose is not distant. It is here, in cities across the United States, quietly reshaping communities and lives. The rise of these organizations is also tied to socio-economic conditions. Poverty, lack of opportunity, and demand for illegal substances create a fertile environment for recruitment and expansion. Communities that struggle economically are more vulnerable to cartel influence, as young men and women see few alternatives for survival and success. Cartels exploit these gaps, offering money, power, and status in exchange for loyalty and service. This cycle perpetuates the growth of the underground empire, making it difficult to eradicate. Education and awareness are key to understanding the modern cartel phenomenon. By exploring the operations, influence, and consequences of these groups, society can begin to grasp the scale of the problem. The reality is chilling. Modern cartels are no longer foreign entities operating on distant borders. They are part of America's cities, embedded within the very fabric of communities, and their reach is only growing. From Los Angeles to Chicago, from Miami to Houston, the shadow of these empires looms over the streets, a silent but deadly force shaping lives in ways most will never see. As we move deeper into this exploration, it becomes clear that modern cartels are more than gangs. They are sophisticated organizations, combining technology, finance, and strategy to maintain control. Their evolution from traditional street gangs to complex, multifaceted criminal enterprises reflects the adaptability and ruthlessness of those who run them. The streets may look the same as ever, but underneath, a new kind of empire thrives silent, calculating, and unstoppable. By understanding their structure, influence, and the communities they affect, we begin to see the reality of America's modern cartels. This is not a story of myth or legend. It is a story of the present, of real people, real money, and real power operating in the shadows. And it is a story that demands our attention, because ignoring it does not make it disappear. It only allows these shadow empires to grow stronger, deeper, and more entrenched. The rise of modern cartels in America is a warning. The streets are no longer just battlegrounds for old gangs. They are stages for sophisticated, modern criminal enterprises that operate in silence, strike with precision, and shape lives with terrifying efficiency. In this world, knowledge is power, awareness is survival, and the empire of shadows is always expanding. As the night falls over American cities, the lights flicker, and the shadows stretch long across the streets. One thing is clear: the modern cartel is not coming. It is already here. The streets of Los Angeles are alive with lights, music, and movement, but underneath the glamour and nightlife, a hidden empire thrives. Los Angeles has become a central hub for modern cartel operations, a place where Mexican cartels have merged with local street gangs to create a network that is both brutal and sophisticated. These cartels control neighborhoods, dictate street-level drug distribution, and enforce their authority through fear and calculated violence. Their operations are multi-layered. At the top are kingpins, rarely seen but commanding respect and terror. Below them, lieutenants manage territories, while foot soldiers execute orders, enforce control, and collect revenue. Every alley, every street corner, every illicit transaction is monitored, recorded, and reported up the chain. Surveillance cameras, informants, and advanced communication tools allow these organizations to operate with remarkable efficiency, making the streets feel like a controlled battlefield rather than chaotic urban life. Miami, known for its beaches, nightlife, and vibrant culture, hides another layer of criminal sophistication. Historically, a gateway for cocaine and other narcotics from Latin America, the city has become a complex transit and money laundering hub for modern cartels. Unlike Los Angeles, Miami's operations are deeply entwined with financial manipulation. Shell companies, luxury properties, and even legitimate businesses are used to conceal the movement of millions of dollars. Street-level violence is present but carefully managed. The real power lies in finance, influence, and control over the supply chain. The modern cartel in Miami is less visible on the streets but no less dangerous. Their reach extends from nightclubs and ports to boardrooms and bank accounts. They have adapted to law enforcement scrutiny, using encrypted communication and digital currency to keep operations invisible, allowing them to expand without drawing attention. Chicago, a city long known for its history of gang violence, now hosts hybrid organizations that blend traditional street gangs with modern cartel methods. Here, power is maintained through fear, reputation, and strategic alliances. Territories are fought over with precision, and violent acts are calculated to send messages without attracting excessive police attention. The city's cartels control neighborhoods, manage drug distribution networks, and even infiltrate local businesses to maintain income streams. Unlike in Miami, where finance dominates, or Los Angeles, where operations blend street and organization, Chicago cartels thrive on intimidation, loyalty, and local dominance. Murders are targeted, conflicts are planned, and alliances are brokered in the shadows. Street-level enforcement is combined with technology. Encrypted phones, surveillance, and digital networks allow these organizations to remain a step ahead of law enforcement. Across these cities, one thing is clear. The modern cartel has evolved beyond the violent chaos of traditional gangs. Their methods are strategic, sophisticated, and often invisible. They understand human behavior, exploit weaknesses, and manipulate systems to their advantage. Recruitment is deliberate, targeting young individuals who are vulnerable or seeking power, wealth, and status. The allure of quick money, protection, and a sense of belonging draws them in, but the price of entry is steep. Loyalty is enforced through fear, betrayal is met with brutal consequences, and survival is never guaranteed. Technology has become a defining tool for these organizations. Encrypted messaging apps allow leaders to issue orders without leaving traces. GPS tracking, surveillance drones, and social media monitoring provide real-time intelligence about rivals, law enforcement activity, and market demand. Cryptocurrency has revolutionized their ability to launder money and move funds across borders, reducing the risk of detection. Modern cartels combine street-level enforcement with corporate-style management, blending brutality with strategy to maintain control and expand influence. The impact on communities is profound. In Los Angeles, neighborhoods under cartel influence see higher rates of violence, drug addiction, and extortion. Businesses are forced to pay protection fees. Residents live in fear, and young people are drawn into a life of crime with few options for escape. In Miami, the influence is subtler, but pervasive wealth and power mask criminal operations, and the line between legitimate business and cartel activity is often blurred. Chicago experiences the full spectrum: fear, violence, territorial control, and community disruption, all executed with strategic precision. The human cost is high, with families torn apart, children growing up in fear, and communities struggling to maintain stability. Law enforcement efforts across these cities have seen mixed results. Task forces, undercover operations, raids, and arrests have led to temporary disruption, but the adaptability of these organizations ensures resilience. When leaders are removed, lieutenants rise to power and operations continue. The decentralized structure of modern cartels means that no single action can completely dismantle the network. Their strategic planning and use of technology create a constant challenge for police and federal agencies. Even when arrests are made, the financial and organizational foundations remain strong, allowing for rapid reconstitution. The evolution of these cartels also reflects broader societal trends: economic inequality, lack of opportunities, and demand for illegal substances create fertile ground for recruitment. Communities with limited resources are particularly vulnerable, and young individuals often see few alternatives to joining these organizations. Cartels exploit these gaps, offering a combination of money, status, and protection that seems attractive in contrast to limited legitimate opportunities. In this way, the modern cartel not only survives, but thrives, embedding itself into the social fabric of these cities. As night falls over Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the streets appear ordinary. Lights flicker, music plays, people move about their daily lives. Yet beneath the surface, a network of organized crime operates with precision and power. These are not random acts of violence or chaos. They are calculated, strategic, and ruthless. Modern cartels have learned to balance visibility and invisibility, control and subtlety, fear and persuasion. Their operations continue largely unseen, but the consequences are felt by all who live in their shadow. Understanding these organizations requires acknowledging the complexity and sophistication of their operations. They are financial empires, criminal organizations, and social forces all at once. Their influence stretches beyond street corners into neighborhoods, businesses, and digital spaces. Their methods are constantly evolving, responding to law enforcement tactics, technological developments, and changes in demand. Modern cartels are not static. They are dynamic, adaptable, and relentless in pursuit of power. The stories of individuals within these cartels illustrate both the allure and danger of this world. Foot soldiers recount tales of rapid wealth, protection, and respect, alongside stories of fear, betrayal, and loss. Lieutenants discuss strategic planning, coordination across cities, and financial operations that rival legitimate businesses. Kingpins remain largely invisible, their presence felt through the reach and actions of those below them. Each layer demonstrates the sophistication, danger, and resilience of these organizations. By exploring Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, it becomes clear that modern cartels are not isolated phenomena. They represent a nationwide network, each city acting as a node in a larger web of criminal enterprise. The lessons learned in one city are applied to another, strategies are shared, and networks are maintained across state lines. The result is a system that is both localized and expansive, capable of sustaining itself even under pressure from law enforcement. The rise and entrenchment of these cartels in American cities represent a shift in organized crime. Traditional street gangs and old-school criminal families have given way to hybrid organizations that combine technology, finance, and street-level control. Their influence is pervasive, their operations sophisticated, and their reach continues to grow. In Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the modern cartel is more than a threat. It is a reality, shaping lives, communities, and cities in ways that often remain hidden from view. As the chapter closes, one thing is undeniable. The modern cartel has arrived in America, and it is not going anywhere. Its operations, influence, and adaptability ensure that it remains a formidable force, challenging law enforcement, disrupting communities, and redefining the face of crime in the 21st century. Understanding its presence, methods, and impact is essential for anyone seeking to comprehend the reality of modern urban life in America. The streets may look ordinary, but the empire that thrives beneath the surface is anything but. The power of modern cartels in America is not uncontested. Rivalries simmer beneath the surface, alliances shift, and control over territories can turn deadly in an instant. Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago are not only hubs for individual cartels, but also battlegrounds where competition for dominance fuels violence, strategy, and fear. In Los Angeles, turf wars between Mexican cartel factions and local gangs have escalated into carefully orchestrated clashes. Unlike random street violence, these confrontations are strategic, designed to send a message, establish control, and maintain authority. A single act of defiance can trigger a chain reaction. As lieutenants mobilize foot soldiers, surveillance is increased, and violence is unleashed with chilling precision. Miami presents a different form of rivalry. Here, competition is not just territorial, it is financial. Cartels vie for control of ports, smuggling routes, and laundering channels. The city's waterfront becomes a chessboard where operations are carefully timed, shipments are secured with armed protection, and rival groups constantly probe for weaknesses. Turf wars are rare in public spaces, but the consequences of business disputes can be lethal. Assassinations, threats, and sabotage are the preferred tools, leaving the streets deceptively calm while the underground war rages in the shadows. Chicago's hybrid gangs and cartel networks exhibit both territorial and violent rivalries. Neighborhoods become front lines where control is enforced through intimidation, brutal violence, and strategic manipulation. Local gang leaders often align with cartel operations to gain resources, weapons, and protection, creating a volatile mix of old-school street warfare and modern cartel tactics. Murders are planned and executed with precision. Graffiti marks territories, and alliances can change overnight. The underlying strategy is always control of people, control of neighborhoods, and control of revenue streams. Law enforcement in all three cities faces a nearly impossible challenge. Federal agencies, including the FBI and DEA, have developed specialized task forces to infiltrate, investigate, and disrupt these networks. Undercover operations are perilous, with operatives often facing life-threatening situations if discovered. Wiretaps, surveillance drones, and financial audits are tools of the trade, but the cartel's use of encrypted messaging, shell companies, and complex hierarchies often blunts these efforts. Arrests and seizures, while celebrated publicly, are rarely enough to dismantle the organization. When a leader is captured, a lieutenant often rises to maintain operations, and the cycle continues. Raids on cartel operations are cinematic in themselves. Helicopters hover over city streets in pre-dawn darkness. Tactical teams move silently through alleyways, and armored vehicles block escape routes. Inside, officers seize weapons, cash, and narcotics while meticulously documenting evidence. These operations reveal the scale and sophistication of modern cartels. Encrypted devices, hidden compartments, and meticulously organized financial records. Every raid uncovers a fragment of the vast empire, but rarely the entire network. The intelligence gathered is critical, yet the cartel's adaptability ensures they recover quickly, restructure, and resume operations with minimal disruption. The human element of enforcement is often overlooked. Police officers, federal agents, and community leaders work tirelessly, balancing public safety with legal constraints. Witnesses live in fear, informants risk their lives, and families of operatives are caught in the crossfire. The psychological toll of confronting organizations that operate in shadows, yet exert real influence over entire neighborhoods, is immense. Yet, despite these challenges, law enforcement continues to adapt, innovate, and confront the evolving threat. Technology has shifted the balance of power in these conflicts. Modern cartels use encrypted communication to coordinate attacks, monitor rivals, and evade surveillance. Social media becomes a tool for both intimidation and recruitment, allowing cartels to broadcast power subtly while maintaining operational secrecy. Financial technology, including cryptocurrency and offshore accounts, ensures that revenue streams remain untouchable. Even in the face of high-tech law enforcement, these organizations maintain an edge by combining old-school brutality with modern innovation. Rivalries between cartels are often not just for profit, but for reputation. In a world where fear and respect dictate survival, being perceived as weak can be fatal. Every act of violence is both a warning and a message. Murders, drive-by shootings, and assassinations are calculated to assert dominance. The balance between visible control and invisible influence is delicate. Too much violence draws law enforcement attention. Too little undermines authority. The modern cartel operates in this constant tension, using strategy, intelligence, and psychological manipulation to maintain power. Communities feel the consequences of these rivalries acutely. Residents live under a shadow of uncertainty. Businesses operate under implicit threat, and young people are drawn into cycles of crime and retaliation. Education, opportunity, and hope become casualties as the cartel's influence permeates daily life. Neighborhoods are mapped not by streets or landmarks, but by territories, alliances, and power dynamics, controlled by organizations few understand, but many fear. Despite their sophistication, cartels remain vulnerable to intelligence and enforcement breakthroughs. Informants, surveillance, and undercover operations have succeeded in dismantling key networks, seizing millions of dollars, and arresting high-profile leaders. These victories, while publicized, reveal only a fragment of the ongoing struggle. Cartels adapt rapidly, shifting operations, decentralizing leadership, and exploiting legal loopholes. The war is continuous, dynamic, and far from resolved. The evolution of law enforcement strategies mirrors the complexity of the threat. Joint federal-local task forces, interagency cooperation, and technological innovation are now essential. Predictive analytics, financial tracking, and cyber intelligence allow agencies to anticipate movements, identify vulnerabilities, and disrupt operations before they escalate. Yet, the adaptability of modern cartels means that every tactic is temporary, every victory hard-won. The balance of power is fluid, with constant adjustments by both sides in a high-stakes game that plays out across the streets, courts, and digital networks of America. As night falls and city lights flicker across Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the war continues silently. Cartels strategize, enforce, and expand, while law enforcement plans, investigates, and strikes. The streets may appear calm, but beneath the surface, a constant struggle for power rages. Every arrest, every raid, and every seizure represents a battle. In a larger war, a war fought in shadows, with lives, communities, and empires at stake. The reality of cartel rivalries and enforcement in modern America is both terrifying and fascinating. It reveals a world where strategy, violence, finance, and technology intersect in ways few outsiders can comprehend. Understanding this world requires looking beyond sensational headlines to the underlying systems, tactics, and human stories that define the modern cartel. It is a world where power is absolute, survival is uncertain, and the balance between law and lawlessness is constantly contested. In Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the modern cartel is a force that shapes neighborhoods, dictates commerce, and instills fear. Rivalries ensure vigilance, raids and arrests enforce the law, and adaptability ensures survival. The silent battle continues, with winners and losers often unseen, and the stakes higher than most can imagine. This is not a story of myth or legend. It is the reality of modern urban America, a world where shadows control the streets, and power is measured in both fear and influence. Money is the lifeblood of every modern cartel, and in America, the scale of financial operations is staggering. From the streets of Los Angeles to the ports of Miami and the alleys of Chicago, cash flows like a hidden river, moving through multiple hands, accounts and channels before it disappears into a network of legal and illegal enterprises. Unlike traditional street gangs that relied solely on cash from drug sales or extortion, modern cartels operate like multinational corporations, with complex financial hierarchies and specialized cells that handle accounting, laundering, and reinvestment. At the top, kingpins oversee revenue streams. Lieutenants ensure that money moves efficiently, and specialized financial operatives exploit every legal and technological loophole to conceal illicit activity. Every dollar, every shipment, every transaction is tracked and optimized to maximize profit and minimize exposure to law enforcement. Cryptocurrency has become the modern cartel's most powerful tool. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other digital currencies allow for near-instantaneous, untraceable transfers across borders. Money can move from Miami to Mexico, Colombia, or even Europe within minutes, bypassing traditional banking systems and scrutiny. Cartel financial operatives create layered networks of wallets, exchanges, and shell companies, often routing funds through multiple jurisdictions to obscure the origin. This digital sophistication has elevated cartel operations beyond mere street-level commerce. They now command global financial intelligence, cyber expertise, and strategic investment strategies to sustain and expand their empire. International links are another cornerstone of modern cartel power. Mexican and Colombian cartels maintain connections with American street gangs, creating a supply chain that is both transnational and highly efficient. Drugs are imported, laundered, and distributed with military-like precision. Cartels exploit ports, airports, and border crossings to ensure steady supply, often using corrupt intermediaries or smuggling tunnels to evade detection. Once inside the US, distribution networks are tightly controlled. Operatives are trained, monitored, and strategically positioned to avoid disruption, ensuring that both product and revenue move seamlessly through the system. These operations are not random. They are meticulously planned. Financial strategies, smuggling routes, and operational hierarchies are continuously analyzed for efficiency. Every risk is calculated. What shipment might be intercepted, which route might attract law enforcement attention, and how internal disputes could jeopardize the operation. Modern cartels have turned risk management into an art form, blending brute force with strategic intelligence. Their understanding of both street-level operations and global finance makes them extraordinarily difficult to dismantle. Community infiltration is another way finances are protected and expanded. Cartels invest in legitimate businesses, nightclubs, car dealerships, real estate, and import-export companies, creating a dual reality where visible prosperity masks hidden criminal activity. These businesses serve multiple purposes: laundering money, providing legal income streams, and acting as fronts for intelligence gathering. The blending of legitimate and illegitimate operations makes detection challenging, even for experienced law enforcement agents. At every level, the line between legal and illegal becomes blurred, and financial sophistication ensures long-term survival. Cybersecurity and technology further protect cartel finances. Encrypted communication channels, dark web transactions, and sophisticated hacking tools allow cartels to monitor rivals, prevent infiltration, and secure funds. Some cartels employ cyber specialists to oversee digital assets, track law enforcement attempts, and manage online recruitment. The combination of street-level enforcement and high-tech financial strategy makes modern cartels uniquely formidable. They are not simply gangs. They are criminal enterprises that leverage technology, intelligence, and strategy to dominate markets, communities, and industries. Law enforcement has responded with specialized financial task forces and cybercrime units. But the pace of cartel innovation often outstrips enforcement capabilities. Seized assets, frozen accounts, and digital investigations provide temporary disruption. Yet the decentralized, adaptive nature of these networks ensures rapid recovery. Cartels adjust wallets, routes, and strategies with remarkable speed, often leaving investigators chasing shadows. This adaptability is a defining feature of modern operations, demonstrating a level of sophistication far beyond what most imagine when they think of street gangs or criminal organizations. International coordination is essential to combating these networks. Agencies such as the DEA, FBI, Interpol, and customs authorities collaborate across borders, tracking shipments, funds, and communications. Joint operations occasionally lead to arrests, seizures, or temporary disruption of operations. But the global nature of modern cartels allows them to rebuild and reroute with minimal impact. They leverage international financial systems, exploit gaps in regulations, and maintain operational secrecy, turning the borderless digital economy into a tool for survival and expansion. Despite their sophistication, vulnerabilities exist. Human error, betrayal, overconfidence, or law enforcement breakthroughs can disrupt operations. Informants, surveillance, and digital tracking have occasionally exposed critical nodes in the financial network, leading to arrests of key operatives and seizures of millions in assets. These events, however, are exceptions rather than the rule. Modern cartels anticipate potential threats, diversify operations, and maintain redundancy across every aspect of their financial empire. The consequences of these financial operations extend beyond the cartels themselves. Communities feel the impact indirectly through increased crime, the normalization of illicit wealth, and the infiltration of legitimate markets. Young people are seduced by visible prosperity, while local businesses may unknowingly become entwined in laundering schemes. The economic footprint of modern cartels is wide-reaching, subtle, and insidious, affecting society in ways that are often invisible but deeply significant. The fusion of technology, finance, and street-level control represents the modern cartel's most dangerous evolution. In the US, they have learned not only to survive but to thrive, using money as both a shield and a weapon. Every dollar is optimized, every transaction calculated, every investment strategically placed to ensure longevity. The empire is global, yet rooted deeply in local streets. Each city, each neighborhood, each operation is a node in a vast, interconnected network designed for power, profit, and survival. As night descends across Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the true reach of these organizations becomes clear. Streets that appear ordinary are veins in a global financial and criminal network, moving product, money, and influence with deadly efficiency. The modern cartel's empire is a fusion of past brutality and present intelligence, blending violence with strategy, fear with innovation, and secrecy with visibility. Its power is undeniable, its sophistication unmatched, and its impact on American life profound. The story of cartel finances, crypto laundering, and international links is not just a tale of money, it is a story of survival, power, and adaptation in a world where law enforcement, technology, and strategy collide. Understanding the empire of the modern cartel is essential to understanding the present reality of crime in America. This is a world where finance fuels violence, technology shields operations, and influence extends far beyond the streets, shaping communities, economies, and lives in ways few ever see. The streets of America are silent for a moment, but the calm is deceptive. Every city, every neighborhood, every alley could be the stage for a violent act, a calculated hit, or a brutal warning. In Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago, the modern cartel doesn't just operate, it enforces. Enforcement is the lifeblood of control, the method by which power is maintained, and the tool through which rivalries are settled. It is not random, it is not chaotic, it is strategic, precise, and terrifyingly effective. From targeted assassinations to street-level intimidation, cartels use violence to dominate communities, enforce loyalty, and instill fear. Los Angeles has become a city of shadows, where cartel influence stretches across neighborhoods, and their enforcement is visible only to those who know where to look. Foot soldiers patrol corners, cameras record movements, and every transaction is monitored. When someone crosses a line, disrespects a lieutenant, betrays a cartel, or threatens revenue retribution is swift. Drive-by shootings, staged accidents, or sudden disappearances are all tools in the arsenal. These acts are calculated, leaving a message to others. Loyalty is mandatory. Betrayal is fatal. The streets themselves become a silent witness to the reach of modern cartels, a living reminder that power is enforced through fear, as much as it is earned through strategy. In Miami, the enforcement is more subtle but no less deadly. Violence is less public, often carried out behind closed doors or in controlled environments. Executions occur in backrooms, warehouses, or even yachts offshore. The message is clear. Threats to the organization, whether financial or personal, will not be tolerated. Cartel members are trained to act efficiently, minimize exposure, and ensure that every action reinforces authority. The combination of financial power and strategic violence allows these organizations to control communities with a precision unmatched by traditional gangs. Chicago demonstrates the full spectrum of street-level enforcement. Territories are marked, rivals are watched, and violent confrontations are often unavoidable. Murders are planned days or even weeks in advance, with careful attention to timing, location, and witnesses. Drive-by shootings, sniper attacks, and coordinated assaults are not spontaneous. They are meticulously choreographed to achieve maximum impact and minimal risk to the organization. Every action sends a message to the streets. Respect the hierarchy, obey the rules, and never challenge the empire. The human cost of cartel enforcement is immense. Families live in fear, children grow up witnessing violence as normal, and communities are destabilized by the constant threat of retaliation. Informants risk their lives to provide intelligence, while law enforcement officers navigate dangerous operations to protect civilians. Each assassination, each violent act, serves both as a warning and a means of control, ensuring that the power of the cartel remains absolute. The psychological impact is profound, shaping behavior, instilling fear, and perpetuating the cycle of crime and control. Real-life operations demonstrate the sophistication of modern cartel enforcement. Surveillance, intelligence gathering, and advanced communication allow cartels to strike with precision. Targets are monitored, movements tracked, and opportunities calculated for maximum effect. Vehicles, weapons, and personnel are deployed with military-like efficiency, and every act of violence is backed by contingency planning to avoid capture or retaliation. These organizations operate not just as criminal enterprises, but as strategic forces capable of executing complex, coordinated actions that rival law enforcement capabilities. Law enforcement responses to cartel enforcement are equally strategic. Task forces plan raids with meticulous detail, often gathering intelligence for months before executing. Helicopters, armored vehicles, and tactical teams move in simultaneously to prevent escape. Arrests are made, weapons are seized, and financial assets are frozen. Yet, the decentralized and adaptive nature of cartels means that even after high-profile operations, the organization often recovers quickly, replacing leadership, adjusting routes, and resuming operations with minimal disruption. This cycle of enforcement, retaliation, and adaptation defines the modern cartel dynamic in America. Violent enforcement is not just about maintaining internal discipline. It is also a tool against rivals. Intercartel rivalries are managed with precision, using fear and intimidation to dominate territories and control markets. Executions, sabotage, and strategic intimidation are applied to weaken competitors, assert dominance, and secure operational advantage. Each act is calculated for maximum psychological effect, sending a clear message to rivals and the wider community. The cartel's authority is absolute and non-negotiable. Technology enhances enforcement capabilities. Encrypted communications allow operatives to coordinate hits without exposing leaders. Surveillance cameras, drones, and GPS trackers provide real-time intelligence. Social media is monitored to detect threats or rival movements. Cryptocurrency ensures that payments, bribes, and incentives for violent operations can be delivered securely and discreetly. The fusion of traditional street tactics with modern technology has created a level of enforcement sophistication previously unseen in American cities. The result is a chilling reality. Modern cartels have mastered the balance between visible violence and covert operations. Streets may appear calm, but the mechanisms of control are always active. Operatives enforce rules, monitor behavior, and execute strategic strikes to maintain dominance. Communities live under a constant unseen pressure, and the influence of these organizations extends into every facet of urban life, from neighborhoods to businesses, from digital networks to financial markets. Understanding cartel enforcement is understanding power itself in the modern criminal landscape. Violence is not arbitrary. It is a tool, a message, and a mechanism for survival. It ensures loyalty, deters rivals, and maintains control over both people and territory. The scale, precision, and sophistication of these operations reveal a modern cartel that is not only dangerous, but highly intelligent and adaptive. As night falls and the cities of Los Angeles, Miami, and Chicago appear calm to the untrained eye, the reality beneath the surface is stark. The modern cartel enforces its power with strategy, precision, and terror. Every movement, every decision, every act of violence is a piece of a larger puzzle designed to maintain dominance, control markets, and secure influence. The empire operates quietly but decisively, shaping communities, lives, and streets with a combination of fear, strategy, and ruthlessness that defines the modern criminal world. In the end, the violent enforcement of modern cartels is both their greatest strength and the most terrifying aspect of their existence. It is a constant reminder that power in the shadows is absolute, loyalty is mandatory, and survival is never guaranteed. The streets are never truly safe, and the empire of the modern cartel remains ever present, ever adaptive, and ever dangerous a force that continues to define the reality of crime in 21st century America. The empire of shadows is never truly gone. The streets of America pulse with life, but beneath the surface, power, money, and fear continue to shape communities. Modern cartels are not just a relic of the past. They are a present reality, evolving, adapting, and expanding with each passing day. From Los Angeles to Miami, from Chicago to every city in between, their influence reaches far beyond what most see. What started as street-level gangs has transformed into sophisticated criminal enterprises that blend violence, technology, and finance into a seamless network of power. The story of these cartels is a story of human ambition, fear, and the consequences of choices made in the shadows. It is a story of lives caught between survival and destruction, of neighborhoods held hostage by invisible empires, and of law enforcement fighting an uphill battle against intelligence, adaptability, and ruthlessness. Every dollar laundered, every hit executed, every territory controlled is a reminder of the intricate machinery that fuels these modern criminal organizations. Yet, understanding this world is the first step toward confronting it. Awareness, vigilance, and knowledge are the tools communities can use to resist, recover, and protect the next generation from being drawn into this cycle of power and violence. The modern cartel may seem untouchable, but even the strongest empires have cracks, and history has shown that persistence, courage, and strategy can bring change. As the city lights flicker and the night stretches across America, one truth remains. The shadow empire of the modern cartel is real, powerful, and relentless. But so too is the resilience of the people who live under it, the law enforcement who fight against it, and the society that seeks to understand and challenge it. The story may end here for now, but the Empire of Shadows continues, waiting for the next chapter to unfold.